everyone, and welcome to episode 9 of RacerTV's Behind the Bars. I'm Rodney Tomlin, joined today by a few special guests, including our own GNCC historian, Mr. Jared Bolton, also Griff Cotter, who is a huge legacy in the GNCC racing nation, and of course the one and only Barry Hawk. And today we're going to be discussing the 2007 Steele Creek GNCC, which is probably one of the most referred to GNCCs on Motorcycle Day, especially when we come down to the nitty-gritty and the finish line region. And, of course, to get the show started, let's go ahead and do a roundabout here and meet and greet with everyone. And, of course, let's start off today with Mr. Jared Bolton. And, Jared, I know you've been a big part of GNCC racing for a while, of course, as a junior trail boss and doing a lot of media things as far as that goes and being our historian, if you will. But one thing that helps keep you in the loop as a historian is that you were following GNCC a long time before you became that part of the circle. You were at the Steele Creek GNCC as a young teenager, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, absolutely. I was there that day. Me and my dad came and rode the morning race, had a blast, and then come out and stuck around for the entire afternoon race, which, sometimes my dad would get a little, hey, I'm ready to go. Let's go. But especially Steele Creek was about 2 hours. So, that's a little bit of a drive. Not that big of a drive, but you get ready, you get antsy to go. And I think that day we were like, hey, this is a good race. Let's stick around to the end. Man, I'm so glad we did because we had a front row seat all the way down for that finish. I remember watching every inch of it and just being absolutely blown away. And, man, that was one of the days for sure that stick out in my mind that I realized this is what I wanted to be part of.
No doubt. That one certainly helped put the icing on the cake as far as helping me know that I was in the right genre of sports as far as racing goes because, out of all the race announcing that I do, I swear there is still nothing like announcing a GNCC, and it marvels me that after 3 hours, especially like on that day, mid-80-degree temperatures in mid-March when people weren't used to it and things like that, they were still able to dig deep enough to be able to perform at the levels that they were able to perform at, and that just amazes me, man.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, it was really warm. Thinking back, it was kind of warm that whole week, and I don't think anybody was really prepared for that, and it really played a big factor in this race too.
It really did. And Jared, I know that Barry Hawk is one of our guests, and you're kind of the guy behind the scenes of getting things ready to go. We got Barry online here today, but unfortunately we're missing one of the key elements of that battle. We're talking about Glenn Carney, and I understand that he's having a pretty good time and can't be with us right now.
Yeah. Actually, I reached out to Glenn, and Glenn gave me the most Australian response possible, and it's actually pretty cool. He said, "Hi, mate. Good to hear from you. Hope you're doing well. I'm away on a holiday in the bush with poor phone reception. I'd be keen to make it work, mate, but couldn't do it this week. Cheers."
Lucky guy, huh?
Oh, yeah.
No doubt about that. And, of course, glad that we are able to have Barry Hawk on with us. We'll talk with him in just a moment. Right now we go to our other part of our, panel here, Mr. Griffin Cotter, who is, like I said, a legacy as far as GNCC racing is concerned. Your dad was actually, if I'm not mistaken, the first GNCC announcer. He was one of the first voices of the Blackwater 100 many, many years ago, huh?
I can't comment to the exact date that he got involved, but it's been a while, and his hair's turning pretty gray now. So, and it may be a little bit premature, but we're getting to that point now where it's kind of expected to be that gray. But yeah, it's good to be on the show today, guys. In all honesty, I didn't think that it would be this soon, that such a new property like Behind the Bars would feel a little bit nostalgic. But here we are, and I guess you would call this season 2. We started this back when everything, kind of shut down last spring, and good to be back on, and it's getting me excited to get out and get back to the racetrack for the real thing.
Yeah, Griff, you do a lot of stuff behind the scenes at GNCC, everything from helping build the infrastructure to maintaining the infrastructure to behind the scenes things at RacerTV, doing a lot of the directing and things like that. So my hat's off and kudos to you for all the hard work that you put in and helping RacerTV move along as far as it is. And even with great programs like this, you guys working together to make something like this happen, I think it's awesome. And, of course, we go to our guest speaker with us today and one of the stars of the GNCC for many, many years, and especially of that 2007 FMF Steele Creek GNCC, talking about one and only Barry Hawk. Barry, how's things going, buddy?
Yeah, it's going good. Quite busy this time of the year with everything I got going on with the team, but yeah, glad to be here. And yeah, that day at Steele Creek, it's quite memorable and ranks in probably one of my top 3 all-time finish. Again, glad to be here.
Well, Barry, I'll tell you what, you're chopping up a little bit, but, you know, you've been a part of Steele Creek history a couple of different times. I can't remember if it's 03, 04, somewhere around in there. You were the guy that fell off the bridge, if I remember, during the afternoon race. You ended up taking a drink, and that wasn't a warm 85-degree day. That was a very cold day, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, it was pretty cold. And I still have, to this day, I have a lot of people ask me about, it had to be cold. And honestly, I think there was so much adrenaline going. I couldn't tell you. It didn't feel cold. It was, I was making such a stupid mistake. But yeah, it was one I'd like to forget. I got some good memories at Steele Creek and some bad memories.
Well, the good one, of course, is the one that we're going to be showcasing here today, talking a little bit about that third round of GNCC racing in the 2007 season. We had been to Florida, obviously, at Bike Week, and then we had gone to the Maxis General GNCC at Aonia Pass, and to kind of set the stage of what's going on here during this time, Barry, that was the year after Juha Salminen had won his second GNCC title. David Knight had made his way into the GNCC series. I believe that there were a few other things going on there, but those are, we had a privateer leading the point standings at that particular point with Garrett Edmondson, and we had Shane Watts, who had lost his factory ride, also very hungry and very competitive in the early part of that season so far.
It was, I think a lot of people were, with Garrett Edmondson leading the points, a lot of people were shocked by that. I wasn't shocked by that because starting off in Florida, you know, he's a Florida guy, so he rode very well there, and then I knew he was going to be good at Georgia, so that didn't surprise me. I do remember coming into that season as well, Watts with losing his factory deal. I don't think none of us knew, maybe Shane didn't even know what his plan was going to be if he was doing all the races or what he was going to do that year. But yeah, he came in there and rode well that day as well. So, but Shane's one of those people where if he's into it, he can be the fastest guy on the track, and if his mind's not there that day, he doesn't feel like doing it, he just rides around. But we got the fast, good Shane Watts that day.
Yes, we most certainly did. And again, just kind of setting the stage, it was an out of the ordinary hot day. Mid-80s is what we were seeing the temperatures up. And Jared, we also pointed out that it was kind of dry for that time of year as well.
Yeah, and actually it's kind of interesting, you know, growing up in North Carolina, it seems like from like 2006 until partway through 2008, we had just this really, really long dry spell, and really made a lot of, not just GNCC, but a lot of local races really dry there. And that's why, you know, when we get to places like Mason-Dixon that dry out and you get that much powder, you hear me always say, "Oh man, I love this. This is fun to me." You know, that's because that's what I grew up riding there for quite a few years. And this wasn't quite that kind of powder, but it was definitely probably one of the driest Steele Creek events we ever had.
That's it. Let's go ahead and roll tape, guys, and let's start taking a look at the action from that day back in 2007.
Hello and welcome to the Can-Am Grand.
Well, as we check out the escape from the day, you can tell that there were a lot of people there at the GNCC at Steele Creek, as there always are. And, you know, that's one thing that we can always note about Steele Creek, man. That place gets packed. There's no doubt about it. And, Barry, from a racer standpoint, that has to be probably a pretty cool place to be racing.
Should be some good racing.
Yeah, it's definitely really unique, running down along the river and then going up on the steep mountainous hillsides. There's not a lot of rock there, but it's definitely unique. Just like every facility we go to is there's always something different about it. But yeah, it's this place this year with it being dry was a whole different animal.
No doubt. And, you know, I double-checked the date here. March 25th was the date this race was run, so it was about a week later in the month than what I recognized from memory. But regardless, as we roll into this one, I think we're going to head down to the starting line here in just a few moments. And as we take a look, there to the right, or I guess would be the right if you're looking at it, Jason's left shoulder. You see that 345 there, Jared Bolton?
Yeah, that would be our old buddy Ryan Eccles there, junior trail boss these days, and was actually a really great racer in his own right. You know, wasn't quite a Barry Hawk, but you know he had some XC2 podiums and XC1 decent finishes, and there he is lined up right there next to David Knight.
I imagine that would be a pretty cool place to be lined up to. There's Garrett Edmondson, who was our points leader. Barry Hawk donning the number 2. The number 3 was Charlie Mullins. And this guy right here, Glenn Carney, was certainly going to be a big part of the day's action that was coming ahead. And there we see, I think you might be able to correct me if I'm wrong on this one, but I believe this might have been the actual start of the first year of that XC2 class.
Yeah, this is year 1 XC2 action. So those guys were pretty anxious, you know, at that time to make a statement from that class and really build it up. And this is actually the groundwork. It's built into what it is today, where it's truly a premier class.
No doubt. And we see Jimmy Jarrett get off to a great start. David Knight got off to a great start there in that. I believe Charlie Mullins also getting off to a great start. And here we go with the XC2 Pro Light start now. But now out into the woods. Now, here's a chance for us to check in with Glenn Kearney.
Probably the best, up until the third lap, it was the best ride I've had in GNCC. And the track was working good for me. I really enjoyed it. The bike, the RM250 was perfect. The RG3 suspension, you know, everything was just perfect. And then just got tired, you know. So, you know, I've had a couple of weeks since then to recover fully, and we're ready to roll today. Yeah, looking to for sure. I'm actually a new resident in North Carolina. I just moved here, me and the teammate Josh. So we've been training in this sort of terrain for the last 2 weeks, and it looks really good. You know, the traction today couldn't be any better. The weather's perfect. It's going to be an unreal day.
Now, Carney
unreal day, no doubt about that, to say the least. I don't think he realized what he was in store for that day. And I think he had mentioned right there something about being a little under the weather and having the flu and feeling down for a few weeks. I mean, he talked about his physical fitness in Georgia just a few weeks before that even.
And look at how huge this
guy
absolutely.
Yeah, that's a big part of GNCC racing. If you come into the game not feeling so great, it takes you. But man, Glenn really kept there to have not been feeling 100%.
Yeah, I mean to know he wasn't 100% is crazy. What's that, Griff? Go ahead, buddy.
I was actually talking to producer Dan. We're trying to get the audio level back right. But what stuck out to me about Kearney's interview there is he mentioned he moved in with his teammate Josh Strang. And here we are 13 years later. Josh finished his second in XC1. You know, and I think it was, 9 years from the time that he won the title to just finishing second last season. And I wonder if you would have asked either one of those two if they'd still be involved with GNCC 13 years later, what their answer would be. And I wish Glenn would have been here to ask that question, but it's just so cool to look back and see the threads of today's GNCC racing that were just being started back then.
Well, Barry, as we roll into this, there's Barry Hawk. Let's listen to Barry.
Looking back on it, we had our own jetting in it, and it's what we've been running in some of the other bikes, but unfortunately it didn't work in that particular bike. And we got that bike back here this weekend. We think we've got it fixed, and hopefully I can put it up on the podium and get a win.
Well, listen to the guy working on the win right
Barry,
now.
as you listen to that interview and you watch the beginning of this race, I mean, does this day come back to you pretty vividly?
Fox almost running into some
Yeah, watching it, seeing how the day was playing out. I mean, I've raced a lot of races since then, but, it brings back a lot of good memories. And I need to bring back that stash that I had that day. I mean, it's maybe a little bit more gray in it, but, yeah, it was bring the stash back, and, yeah, definitely brings back a lot of good memories. And it was a good day.
No doubt.
Barry, question. Sorry, Rodney. I just had a question for Barry. Like, coming into this race, you didn't have the best start to the season, but how did your previous career, how did that affect your mindset? Did you know you were okay going into this race, that you had a great shot to win? What was going through your mind?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I had won. I don't know how many races I had won up to this point, but, the 2 previous years to this, U-Haul was there, and he was super dominant. So he was out of the picture, and then Knight came in and was supposed to take over for U-Haul, and he didn't have the best races leading up to this round. So I came into it. I knew my bike was good. I was feeling good, and I thought, all day I just want to get a good start. Try and sprint away, which is what U-Haul had done the previous years, but that didn't work out. So I just kind of, I always say just kind of like NASCAR, you get in the draft and try not to let anybody get too far up front. And that's what I did. I just kind of stuck around up front all day and waited till it was time to pounce.
You hear,
sorry, Rodney, again, I don't mean to keep cutting you off, but you hear Caleb and Stu talk about the mental aspect of racing, and just compare your mental aspect to everyone else's. I mean, like the mental race within the actual physical race. And I think you were sitting 6th after lap 1 in your mind. Were you still in it?
Yeah, absolutely. And also I know with my pit crew, giving me the pit board and knowing where I was at from the leader, and I wasn't too far back. So I didn't hit the panic button. I just kind of stuck around, tried to limit my mistakes. And, it's whenever you have a 3-hour race like this and it's hot, and I think the heat caught everybody off guard. I mean, luckily for me, I felt good there. But one of those things at about the 2-hour mark, it's almost like it's physically demanding and mentally up to that point. But that last hour, it's almost harder mentally, that last hour mark. And that's where I always, for whatever reason, I always shined in that last hour. Just mentally, I was always in a good position. I knew where I was on the track. I knew where everybody else was at. I knew their strengths and weaknesses. And, that for me, that was always, a big thing for me. And, it's something you can't teach. It's either you got it or you don't. But, luckily I had great genes and things, I was blessed with that, I guess.
Even more, so I'm just going to try my best.
Barry, as we look at things here, I see that you started the race out, like we said, 6th, then you went to 5th, and then when you went to 4th. I know up front early on, it was a pretty tight day. As far as the distance goes, I mean, when you look from 1st to 6th, I don't think you guys had a really big gap among the top 6 riders there in those first few laps, did you?
Yeah, there was no real big gap. And honestly, for me, the only one I probably was super concerned with that I didn't want to get out front and kind of sprint away was Watts, because he had won championships. He's the only guy that was in that lead group that had any sort of GNCC championship experience. So I knew he would mentally be tough. So honestly, that was the one guy that I kind of had to keep my eye on and pay attention to where it was at. So, it was one of the things. I mean, looking at the results there, I mean, there's a lot of people there. There's a lot of non-Americans in that that top 10. So it goes back to GNCC being a premier series. So it's definitely interesting.
Yeah, it really is. It is interesting to see the international flavor that we have there in that XC, and now even the XC2 class. I think we see a lot of that going on now. So this was kind of the pave. You guys, they were paving the actual road for the remainder of the guys coming through, like I guess guys like that we're seeing over here today. Josh Strang, who's still around, I guess you could probably consider him one of the paving bricks on that one. But one of the things that amazed me is we saw Shane Watts out front. We saw Charlie Mullins out front there for a little bit. I mean, there was a lot of game playing and some lead changes going on that day.
Report is
yeah, there was. And then looking right here, Knight pulled in, and I believe that Knight and Mullins may have got together late in the race. You know, they were probably wanting to, I don't think intentionally take each other out, but I think those two may have got together, and I think that may have caused Mullins some bike issues. And then now you got Doug talking about our pit.
Actually, our start was probably
Let's listen to Doug.
He was sixth, and he fell back a little bit, but he's starting to catch back up, and we pitted off of everybody else, and he gained on him that lap, which was good for us, so they had to pit, and we did, and he's second now right behind Watts, and we'll have to pit one more time, but Watts does too, so I think we're in good shape.
Well, here it is. Barry Hawk has
you know, pitting strategies and things like that. Did you have much going to say as far as when the pits were going to happen, or was Doug kind of like your lead man whenever it came to those things?
Yeah, Doug and my wife Kristen. I let the pit sequence. I let them take care of that. I had enough other stuff to think about during the race, so I just always told them, you know, hey, when I get to pit board, I'm pulling in. If it's got to be a 2-pit sequence, and if that's what we got to do, we'll do it. I mean, we always went into it with thought of just having one pit, but sometimes track length and time of race plays into it. So this was going to be a two pit stop race. So you know, it's, and again, I always left it up to them. They tell me pit, Kristen give me pit board, I'm pulling in.
Well, right here they give you a pit. You and Watsy pulling the pits almost at the same time, basically nose to tail. Seems like you get the advantage on him coming out of this one. This could have been probably the moment of the race that put you into the position that you were at the very, very end.
Yeah, definitely. And I know with Watts losing his deal, and you know, I guess his pit crew may not have been as experienced as Doug and Kristen and the rest of the guys on our team. And you know, that was one thing that I never had to worry about. If I was pulling in, I knew they were going to get me in and out as quicker than anybody else. So, yeah, with Watts having that little bit of a hiccup there in the pit, definitely played to my advantage. And when you're out there with all the other lappers and everybody's getting tired and it's hot, there's so much that can happen, and it's just, it comes back to limiting your mistakes. That's the key.
Yeah, I mean, and that's been one of your key sayings, I think, Barry. I think from the first time that I interviewed you, limiting mistakes. I mean, that's one thing that you've preached, I think, since I've known you.
Yeah, and it's easy to say, but you know, it's hard to do. Easy to say, hard to do, but you know, it's just, there's so many things, and you're constantly reading the track and the terrain and what's coming up. And
I think we're coming down to the very end right here as we're watching this. Let's go ahead and go through this. This went pretty quick, I think.
I think this is coming to the white flag, Rob.
Okay. All right, so you guys were pretty tight all the way around. I mean, it wasn't just coming down to the very, very end. I mean, this is a battle that ensued pretty much throughout a good part of the race.
All right, last lap here at Steele.
Yeah, it was, and we were, you know, and I'm monitoring what's doing, and you know, just trying to stay in position and be ready to strike. So it's, you know, we're leading up to this last field section here, and I've watched this sequence here quite a few times in the past 13 years. It's pretty neat.
Well, take us through this last lap from your memory's sake, man, because, I mean, nobody can tell the story any better than you.
Yeah. So I knew Kearney and Watts. It was coming down to pretty much myself, Kearney, and Watts. And I know about a mile or so into the last lap, I could tell Watts was getting tired. I could just tell, reading his body position and how he was hitting lines, he was making some mistakes, and Shane isn't that type of rider to make mistakes and take bad lines. And I thought at that point, a mile or so into the last lap, I thought, Shane's done. And he kind of just pulled over, and he didn't pull over and take a break, but he kind of moved over and let me go. And I thought, man, that's great. But he's smart enough to know that if he can just latch on to me, then, you know, he'll be in position to try and get a win. But, yeah, it was, you know, I got in front of Shane, and then I don't remember exactly if Glenn was out front at that point, or I was in lead and Tony was second. But I know we exchanged the lead quite a few times on that last lap, and it was I wasn't stressing out because I knew that grass track was coming up at the end, and it was I had a ace up my sleeve.
You sure did. Here we are in the field section now, Barry. Look at this. I mean, this right here, these are the memories that I keep so vivid in my mind.
And a couple of corners separate.
Yeah, and it's hard to tell, but I almost crashed coming out wood.
Hawk is going to pounce.
But now we're going back and forth. I don't know how many times we passed each other here, but I got there, then he ducks back inside of me, and coming down to that last straightaway where the little ditch was, I looked at that ditch today several times, studied it, and knew exactly what I had to do coming into the finish. I never thought it would play out, but unbelievably it did. Dove underneath him, and he unfortunately got in there, the scoring officials finished, and I didn't know what happened. I thought he was mad and tried to run into me. I look back, Len's on the ground, the ladies on the ground, and I'm like, what in the world is going on? Which now we know that he had nothing left. He gave everything he had.
Oh, it was.
Yeah, I think everybody gave everything they had. We got another good shot of that mustache there, Barry. Here's Shane Watts. Listen to the story.
I was done after the second lap, and I just kept cruising along. I just held it. I should have pulled out. Probably in the past I would have, but I'm here to win the championship. Third today. Good for my point.
Man, we can't even get a word with.
Well, I tell you, I mean, that says a lot right there. When somebody, the caliber of rider and athlete that Shane Watts was, for him to be like that, and for Glenn Kearney to fall out the way that he did, and Charlie Mullins was even having some issues with heat, I believe, on that day, some lightheadedness and things of that nature. I mean, it's amazing to me, just how deep you guys had to dig and how hard you had to work that day. I mean, that goes to show me how hard everybody rode that day. And I guess the big question is, how did you not succumb to what everybody else succumbed to?
I'm not exactly sure, but one of those the last part of that video there was one of my favorites, looking back on that, because on the podium, it's the only time that I ever remember any podium, whether I was part of or watched the other guys that beat me or whatever. It's still to this day, it was me, a wife, and my mechanic were the three of us up there. Watts and Kearney couldn't even be up there. They were both just smoked done. And I felt like I could have went another few laps after that. There was probably some adrenaline going, but I just, for whatever reason, I mean, I was fine. Even like the next day, Monday and Tuesday after that, usually I'll beat up and sore, and I didn't feel bad after that event. I think it was just everything played into my favor that day. I knew my bike was good. I knew I was in shape. I just kept myself in position all day, and I didn't try to abuse myself too much to save because it was going to be hot. It was hot, and everybody, I remember looking when I was up there with Kristen and Doug, 62 guys, and they were laying on the ground underneath the trailer, and their pit crews were fanning them and dumping water on them. And I thought, man, I wonder what's wrong with everyone. And it's not that hot. It's not that bad. But that was easy to say at that time. But looking back on it now, I think there was definitely a lot of adrenaline going for me. So, it was definitely a memorable day for me. And, I'm glad everybody else enjoyed it, looking back on it, and everybody, we're still talking about it to this day. It's pretty neat.
No doubt. Griff, I know watching this from your perspective now, not being a part of it back then, this is one of the things that I know that you've heard this story echoed over time and time again yourself, huh?
Yeah, and what sticks out to me is watching the race, no one was ever able to break away. And I kind of wonder, we touched on it earlier, you all was done. You said it, Barry, the only person with any championship experience in the field was, I guess outside of yourself, was Shane Watts. And when a champion like U-Haul moves on, I can't imagine mentally what that would do to the rest of the field. And I think it showed in that race where no one was able to really get an edge on the other. I think it might have had something to do with the heat. It might have had something to do with the conditions of the track. But I think most of it, had to do with it being anyone's game on any day. Any one of the top 5 or 6 could take the race. And it would be their day, but that day just happened to be your day. Talk a little bit about what that what it was like racing in that vacuum. With U-Haul moving on, it created space for someone else to step up and prove himself as a champion.
Yeah, I think it's really similar to what's going to happen this year. That day, it was only 3 rounds into that season, and there was a lot of people. Knight was expected to win. I was. Mullins was the new hot shoe. Carney was fast. Garrett Edmondson. There were so many fast people, and everybody had high expectations of themselves. And in my opinion, that day showed that the 2 guys, I don't want this to sound wrong, but the 2 guys with the mental edge on everyone else was myself and Watts. And probably whether it's just something that we got or something, from winning races and championships, it's one of those things where, like I said earlier, it's either you got it or you don't. And we didn't let our, I got to get out front. Those other guys, I think, had the mentality is, I got to get out front, I got to go, and they wore themselves out. Watts apparently, we know now, wasn't in as good a shape as he should have been. If he was in good shape, then myself and Watts, that may have been me and Watts battling down to the finish, and we may have dropped Kearney because there's so much left in the tank. But, again, it played into my favor, and, I think like this year, being so similar to that year, like nobody, we've had conversations here in the race shop, who's top dog, who's it going to be? And we're all like, there's 5, 6, 7, 8 guys that it could be any one of them. It's great for GNCC, and it's going to be great to talk about and great to see how it plays out this season. But in the end, it was I think the guys with the most then stay the most mentally stable or the mentally prepared throughout the year to not overreact in situations, not let them get to them, is probably the guy that's going to benefit the most from it.
I have to think. Go ahead.
No, you go ahead, Ronnie.
I was just going to say, I have to think, looking at this season coming up right now, going back to 2007 and the field so open, I think that a lot of people were kind of expecting David Knight to step up to the plate and possibly do what, KTM had hired him as a hired gun, so to speak, to come in and do. Coming into this season, though, I think the difference is with the absence of Caleb, there are no hired guns right now. There is no true standouts. There are so many people that you can say, yeah, this guy's got it, this guy's got it, that guy's got it, that guy's got it. But we really won't know until the season is over, honestly. Can you recall a year of a championship with things as wide open as what they are now? Because like I said, you had, that thing, well, you had, Shane and Barry, and then, of course, David, you had those guys that you kind of put your money on. A lot of people, I'm sure, put on David Knight for the reason that he was hired in, what he was doing in the World Enduro Championships and coming in on the heels of U-Haul and things of that nature. But this year, we don't have that. We've got something totally different, at least from what I've seen and recognized over the tenure that I've been there, the 20 years or so.
I agree with you 100%. I was going to say, just my 2 cents on it is you almost have to compare it to motocross when Ricky Carmichael stepped away. That's really the only comparison. There's not a straight apples to apples comparison here. It's you really have to look outside of GNCC racing because we got something totally different at hand.
Yeah, I think it goes back, if memory serves me correctly, it would have been 2008 was David Knight's last year here, I think. 2008. So in 2009, he was not here. So it's been since 2009 that the reigning champion isn't lining up. Every year after that, you've had whoever's won the championship. We know it's been Caleb the past few years, but you put Whibley and Strang in. On the start, whether they won champion, you always had a previous champion. Right now, I guess there is no previous champion. Well, I guess Strang would be in there. Strang would be the only guy that would have a previous championship. So it's definitely a unique situation. It's going to be a good year.
You've got a bunch of guys that believe that they can win. And whether they would admit it or not, they always had the Caleb factor. And now that the Caleb factor is gone out the window, I think we're going to get the racing that we just witnessed. There's a bunch of guys that lined up in North Carolina back in 2007 that believe they could win that race. And we're going to be we're lucky to experience the same thing this year.
And I totally agree with that statement, Griff. I mean, you couldn't have hit the nail more on the head, I don't think. And Jared, being a part of, watching all that and knowing what we've got coming up, how does that affect you as a co-course designer and things of that nature? Does that put more pressure on you to build a better racetrack for these guys?
Yeah, kind of, in a way. I mean, obviously we got to kind of cater to everybody, but at the same time, we want to make something that's going to translate well into some really close, intense racing at that level, because that's what the spectators come to see. That's what everybody really wants to see. That's the big storyline of the weekend. So we're going to keep things pretty similar to the way they've been the last few years, but man, we want to mix things up a little bit and throw some different stuff in here and there, and who knows, maybe that could play a factor in the final outcome of the championship this year.
I think so. I haven't seen Barry move for quite a few minutes here, for a few seconds. So as we get ready to wrap things
still
up
there,
here.
Barry?
I'm here.
Okay, good. Barry, let's talk a little bit to you while we got some decent audio. We know what's been going on, and obviously, you're the head man over at Coastal Racing now. You guys have got some big changes with bike brands and things of that nature, but, man, you've got the solid team coming in this year, and things are looking pretty exciting for you because one of your riders is one of those riders that you think could possibly win a championship this year.
Yeah, of course. We've moved, Husqvarna has helped us the past 5 years. It's been awesome working with those guys, but now we've moved over. We're the factory gas team. So there's definitely, there's a little bit more behind the scenes stuff going on. Getting Ricky Russell, Johnny Gerard. We added Johnny to the team. So there's a lot of excitement there. But yeah, with Ricky, he's one of those guys where, we worked together last year. Unfortunately, he got hurt, but super, super talented, and I expect him. I put his name in there. He has a GNCC win, and I would think, put his name in the hat for a guy that can win races and win a championship. And hopefully I can help him and get him to achieve his dream, his goal. And if he does that, then that means I'm doing my job. So that's what we want. Being gas, we're the fun brand. So yeah, it's an exciting year for sure.
Sounds good. I like that, the fun brand, if you will. And with that, Griffin, I know we've got a lot of things to look forward to. You from the RacerTV side of things, and I know you're pretty excited about that. And also, we got a lot to look forward to coming up as far as the preseason here for 2021, because this Behind the Bars episode is just the first of a few that we've got planned before the start of the 2021 season.
Yeah, we're getting ready to go racing, and we put together a great. Jared actually has put together a great season of Behind the Bars in anticipation for the 2021 GNCC season, and while we work at the racetrack, we go to the racetrack also, at least speaking for myself, I go as a fan. And I can't tell you, I don't remember the last time I've been this excited to go racing and just sit back and watch what's about to unfold, because you can't say it enough. You don't know who's going to win, and we're in for a really, really, really good year. And I can't wait. Sports fan in general, I'm more excited for GNCC than I think football season. I'll say it.
It certainly holds a lot more, I think, as far as the excitement level is concerned. And I may be a little biased, whatever, but I think most people that come out and have ever enjoyed a GNCC becomes a fan. That's the beauty of it. Whether you come to 1 or 100 races, you go to one and you're blown away, and it's exciting. There's no doubt about that. And Jared, I know as we get ready for the new season coming up. You guys are pretty busy, like we said, getting things ready to go for behind the bars that you're working with that. But you're getting semis ready to go right now and logistics all ready to go. So a lot of things going on as far as the off season is concerned there at the home office, huh?
Oh yeah, absolutely. You know, we've got some new UTVs and ATVs showing up in the next week or so. We've got the TV guys. You got a new semi coming. They're Griff and those guys have been out there working. Actually, Ryan and Bob the Builder have been working hard on the woodworking on that. And then, you know, we've got our new KTMs and got some graphics coming for those that we get to put on. So there's all sorts of just little stuff that, you know, people ask me all the time, well, what do you guys do during the off season? I go, hey, it ain't really an off season, you know, it's the pre-season.
Could you say that there's more work that goes in the off season than during the season, maybe?
Sometimes, yeah. Some weeks that's absolutely true.
Different kind of work.
That's for sure.
I'm sure that it is. Well, guys, Barry, any parting shots or anything before we let you go today?
No, just enjoyed it. Like talking, especially when it was a day where I got to win and everybody else enjoyed it. If you guys need me back on, want me back on, just let me know. I'll be ready.
All righty. Sounds good. Thank you very much, Barry. 8-time GNCC champion. And, of course, Griff or Jared, either one, you guys got anything else to add before we let you guys go today?
I just want to say, man, I'm so glad we finally did this one. This one's been on my list since we started the Behind the Bars thing. And, you know, we spoke at the beginning. You know, I was just a 17-year-old kid there hanging out with my dad and a couple of his buddies. And, you know, I look back at it. Actually, I can pick myself out in that podium shot. You know, it was a goofy little ginger kid with a KTM hat and a KTM shirt on, stuck in the crowd
Did you
there.
have a little badge on?
Man, you know, it's – Yeah. Actually, I didn't have the sheriff's badge then, so that's a little. I don't know if you're watching this and you don't know. Just look at my Instagram story. I've spent the last 3 weeks just annoying the crap out of my wife with a little sheriff's badge, telling her I'm the #1 cowboy. So
I love it.
Yeah,
I love it.
That's been good.
You got an anniversary coming up or just passed though, right?
Yeah, it's actually the 19th, so that's coming up next week. I might have to take the day off. I might be nice, and I'll take the day off from being the #1 cowboy.
Well, Griff, like you said, I know we're all excited, man. Anything else that you might want to add?
No, sir. Happy to be on here. Happy to hang out and talk to you guys about some racing.
All righty, sounds good. Look forward to working with you in the future, Barry. I can't wait to see what happens. Thanks for the memories, and thanks for the ones to come with the team that you've got there with Coastal Racing and so forth. And, of course, looking forward to more Behind the Bars episodes coming up between now and the drop of the first green flag of 2021. On behalf of all of us, Jared Bolton, our GNCC historian, and, of course, Griff Cotter, one of our mainstays in RacerTV, and, of course, the one, the only, Barry Hawk. I'm Rodney Tomlin. Have a great day, everybody.